Welcome, everyone, to the L7C Podcast Wrestling Edition. Today, we are back talking some wrestling. We took a little wrestling vacation since obviously SummerSlam August was a very busy wrestling month for us as we were having a wrestling episode almost every 2 weeks, it seems. So we took a little break. Now we're back, and the wrestling world is on fire for good or for bad. We got the wrestling expert back again, Mr. Jacob Mason. How are you doing today, sir?
Yeah, I'm so good, buddy. I'm so excited for this episode because it's going to be a hot take episode. It's going to be a good time.
It is. But let's start off with some good stuff first. In the time that we've been away, both of us have been to wrestling shows. Most of the L7C, myself, Justin, Byron, Nikki, Chelsea, we went to AEW's first time in Columbus, Ohio, down at the Schottenstein Center. Really good time being there. It's a short 2 hours. It went by pretty quick. Got to see a lot of stars. We didn't get to see CM Punk, but then he came back the next week, which kind of pissed us off. But Moxley, obviously from the state of Ohio, closed the show with Claudio, aka Cesaro. So it was a really good show, man. Can't complain. The energy was there for the first time, and it was really fun. Really fun to be at a different promotion.
Now, did they have like AEW Dark happening? Like, did they do like pre-shows and all that stuff too beforehand?
Yeah, so 7 o'clock they had a whole bunch of like pre-show stuff that wasn't on TV. Like Athena was wrestling, aka Ember Moon, and you had the Jade promo with like their new women's wrestling coach who made her debut. So they had that stuff during the dark period. And that was at 7 o'clock. But once it was 10 o'clock, there was nothing after. It was time to go home, which kind of shocked me a bit. I thought Moxley was going to have like a dark match as the champ and from home state, but he didn't. But it kind of makes sense because they were right back here in Cleveland, and we are definitely going to talk about what the hell happened there.
All right. So all in all, would you go back to another AEW show?
I would go back. I was kind of salty because I really did want to see Keith Lee in person, just because I'm a big Keith Lee fan, but they wrestled like the next week. I get it. You only got 2 hours, but I would definitely go back.
Now, how was back? What was your bang for the buck value? Was it worth the price of admission?
I would say it was worth the price of admission, especially for the first one. I was a little bit surprised at how expensive, like cheap seats were, because we went to WWE and we had better seats in the same row just like a couple months ago, and it was like $30-$40, but then the spot that we were spending was close to like 40-50. So that one I was a little surprised.
So not like that much of a price difference then, or
no, not that much.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah,
That's in there.
So no, it was a good time. It was a really good time. Especially for my wife who went there. Doesn't really know that many AEW people unless they came from WWE or a big name. So she's like, "Who's that? Who's that?" Like casual fans seeing other wrestlers in a different light was good.
Yeah. Now, what would you say was like the highlight of being there?
When we were there, they had like the dumpster match. I heard it was like Max, the rapper, all that stuff. He did drop
The Acclaimed.
Yeah, the Acclaim. They did drop a Vince McMahon line that popped the crowd, so that was really good. And then Orange Cassidy, actually seeing him in person and seeing how smooth he is in person, I feel like those were the highlights of the episode.
All right.
Saw Tony Khan too. He came out. FTR came out. They apologized for not being medically cleared to wrestle. All that. We saw Adam Cole. Like we saw a lot of good stuff. So it was a good
didn't
episode.
you see Adam Cole? Was that the episode he turned on the Bucks?
Yes, it was.
Okay, because I think I seen a kid crying during that, like a highlight of that, which that's good wrestling.
Oh yeah, that's good wrestling when you get the kids emotionally invested. But it was good, man. It It was really good. There's one thing that I did think about that we've talked about for almost 2 years. Like, damn, dude, are the women gonna wrestle today? Oh, here comes Britt Breaker. So here comes the one woman's match on the card. Keep it moving.
All right. So for my wrestling experience, my wife and I literally just got back a couple hours ago from New York City. We went to a House of Glory show, which I didn't know too much about. There's a wrestler out of New York called Amazing Red. He's basically got like a wrestling school, and they run cards, like wrestling schools do. Well, they run like big cards. And this was allegedly as they always say, this is the biggest show we've ever done, the most massive show of all time. And you hear that a lot. For those who can't see this, Martin is shaking his head right now because we all hear it. It's all wrestling, it's all carny stuff, and we love it. But I gotta say, not going in, not knowing too much, this was the best wrestling show I've ever been to. Wow. I haven't been able to stop talking about it since we've seen it. Now, I've been to NXT shows, I've been to Raws, SmackDowns. The only thing I haven't been to an AEW show yet. Been to local indie shows and all that jazz too. But this was wild. We seen the entire House of Black. We seen Buddy Murphy wrestle. We seen Brody King and Buddy Matthews. So we've seen all of them wrestle. Jacob Fatu was there. Then there were some surprise entrances. Max Caster was there. He wrapped in this team called the Main Event. And then Private Party showed up. It was the Briscoes were there. I mean, it was literally an all-star match. There wasn't a bad match on the card. Like in the beginning, the pre-show, they had this battle royal with it was obviously all like the wrestling students of the school. Like it was kind of a clusterfuck. I mean, let's be real, but it was highly entertaining. And it was like a memorial battle royal for one of the students they had there that passed away. And it was, the person who won it was like really best friends with this person, and really, really great story. Like I didn't know anything about it by the end of this battle royal. I was like, oh my God, yes, let's go. Like this is amazing. Then all the main card happened. It was on pay-per-view. I'm going to buy the pay-per-view after this podcast just so I can watch it. We were second row. It was wild. Absolutely wild. Jacob Fatu is, I'm not sure how, but he's somehow related to the Usos and the rest of the Samoans and all that's in wrestling. But he's an absolute tank, and him and Brody King beat the shit out of each other. It was awesome. Buddy Matthews is an absolute unit. You do not realize how big that guy is until he's literally right in front of you. Also, Joey Janela was there. We got our picture with him. He's hilarious. He's fun as hell to watch. All in all, I mean, I was blowing up our group chat. If you have the chance to go to a House of Glory show, just do it. It is the best bang for the buck. We were second row. I think tickets were like, I don't know, $60, $70, something like that a ticket. And it was 3 hours or 4 hours of just pure entertainment. And the crowd, all right, so you get it. You've been to multiple wrestling shows. You can't tell me that you've never been to a wrestling show, or the majority of wrestling shows, you absolutely can't stand the people around you.
Fun fact, the person in front of us during the AEW show we were at, he was full, which you're not supposed to do, full live streaming AEW on his Facebook Live to get some views. I was looking down, I'm like, he was live on Facebook for anyone who didn't want to go on network television to watch it. I was like, wow, okay.
So this show, it was a 21 and over crowd, no kids. So that was the first time I've ever experienced that.
I didn't even know you were allowed to do that.
New York hardcore wrestling, they do it. It's great. Or it's 18 and over or something along. I think it was 21. I don't know. There's no kids, but dude, it was awesome. The crowd was so hype. I mean, some of the chants, we got a twist his dick chant going. It was pretty damn hilarious. I started to chant at one point. I got the whole crowd screaming like "fuck you, Charles." It was wonderful, dude. It was a magical experience, and I cannot say enough great things about House of Glory wrestling. That shit was insane.
So you said you didn't know anything, like going into it, you didn't know what to expect. So like I guess for like a casual wrestling fan, how would you sell it to like them if they don't know the wrestlers but love like wrestling?
So like they announced like House of Black was going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew House of Black was going to be there, and I knew the Briscoes were going to be there. Because they were very, promoted. So that kind of got us in there. It was like, oh, and Jacob fought too. Because I've always wanted to see that guy wrestle. I have not had a chance to see him live because he does a lot of stuff on the West Coast. So for us, it was like, hey, these guys are going to be here. Screw it. Like, let's just go see it. Like, let's just go see a wrestling show. Like, what's the worst is going to be happen? We're going to be out of not even $200. Like, let's just go have a good time. Why not? We're on vacation. But I think in this, like, I think it's because it's a local thing. For them, there were so many local New York people there, not like tourists, actual locals, and just half the people are wearing these House of Glory shirts. Now, I've heard of House of Glory beforehand, but I didn't know like that much about it. It's not like the local indies that are around here. So we went on a whim, but it turned out to be super cool. And I think a lot of it's just for them being local because they do Brooklyn and stuff like that. They did it it's called Terminal 5. It was over like right above Hell's Kitchen.
Okay.
So upper Manhattan by the docks. It would look like a weird venue straight up. It just looked like kind of like a warehouse from the outside. I didn't know what to expect.
That's awesome. If they ever came to Ohio, would you try and go?
Oh yeah, I'd call off work. I'd call in sick. I'd go.
That's awesome. That's
Like
awesome.
both me and my wife said like if the card was right, we'd have no problem just taking a weekend and flying to New York, watch a show, then fly home. Like it was that good.
Oh shit. You heard it from the wrestling expert, man. If he's telling you it's that good that they would fly to New York and come home, if it's in your area, if you're in New York listening to the L7C podcast, definitely give it a shot. So, Jacob, man, a lot's happened since we took our busy season SummerSlam little hiatus. Let's start with AEW. And I know we've said it before on a couple podcasts, but now I think it's really, really, really official. The true honeymoon of like the AEW being the darling and all that stuff, that is done. Like now they're getting judged like a normal, and there's been some big smoke coming from there, man. Like Khan not knowing what he's doing, wrestlers turning on each other, Punk being and feeling like he's entitled to everything, like an old promo from like 2011, 2012 of Triple H saying Punk doesn't like things if he's not the one in the center. It's crazy how it's aged very well because there's just a lot of shit going on.
Yeah. So AEW is right. The hot topic right now is shitting on AEW. It seems like it's in for both right and wrong reasons, for real and fake. And we talked about this before, where I feel like a lot of people are posting the most random shit just to get clicks.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been hard for me trying to figure out what's real and what's not. And I'm not trying to defend AEW. I'm not trying to go after anyone. I literally cannot tell what the hell is happening in AEW. We just know something is going on. Because right after your show, they went to Cleveland, and apparently they had a massive talent meeting, and allegedly Kenny Omega tore their ass up.
Yeah. He tore their ass up, telling them to get in New York. Oh, well, another spoiler since we've been gone. Kenny Omega is back.
Oh yeah, that happened.
Yeah, Kenny Omega, one of the best wrestlers on the planet, is back. So yeah, he tore their asses up, man, and I think that one was, I do 100% believe that's happened. And the other one I truly believe too, which was the one where I was like, dude, what the hell is going on? Is Khan and their like whatever legal team, whatever exec board, whatever the hell you want to call it, allegedly sending a note to Stephanie and Khan, like, tell Hunter to calm down and not poach our people. Like, they're that one, I was like, okay, what the hell is happening?
Now, do you believe it?
I think Hunter has talked to someone, and me and Byron were trying to figure out who the snitch was, because someone snitched.
I think he's talked to multiple people. I had no doubt about that. I'd bet good money on it.
But I feel like someone told, like, hey, I've got in contact with Paul, like, I'm not jumping, but you know, they're off, like, they're using that to better market themselves within Con, you know, like, hey, they're saying if this happens, I can go WWE and get back in this and this, and
which I don't blame the wrestlers for doing that. If someone comes to me and says, hey, I gotta, you know, especially at my old job, if someone said, hey, I'm going to offer you this job to come work, or this money to come work here, I'll go to my boss and be like, hey, can you match this offer or do better?
Yep.
100%. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Who's the snitch? I don't know. But I can guarantee some of the people he's talked to, Keith Lee's going to be one of them. Cesaro, I bet's another one.
Undisputed Era, because I saw Bobby Fish. He literally had an article saying, I would go to war for Triple H.
Yeah.
So
like, Craig, like, tell me if you feel the same way about this.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like AEW, when they first started out, because they were the different brand, they were the different thing. I feel like every time they went live on television, it was like the war. It was a war, and they went above and beyond to try and put on the best, craziest matches. And you had to watch it. You had to see what was going on. You could not look away.
Mm-hmm.
Are you hearing me good, by the way?
Oh, no, I can hear you perfectly fine.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure my internet's good. Gotta see me drop down a couple of frames per second, so edit that out, whatever. But I feel like since they had to see, like, this became must-watch television, I almost feel like since NXT went off Wednesdays, I feel like, I think I've said this before in a podcast, I feel like it's lost some of its luster. Like, it's not bad. Like, I'm not saying the product's bad at all. I'm just saying we were at war starting, or but I feel like they were at war starting out with NXT and WWE. And now that that's gone, I feel like things have changed. Now that Triple H is now running WWE, it's WWE's became the alternative of WWE, it feels like.
And what you're saying, I 100% agree too. And that was going to lead to my next thing. I mean, the Triple H effect is real. Like, ever since he's come, Raw and SmackDown have been busting AEW's ratings ass. Like, Raw just got 2 point. Dude, there were times where they couldn't even get 1 million. Raw's been getting in the 2.1s.
Because everyone wants to know what's going on, what's new, what's happening. This is the change. This is the thing right now. It's it. It's got the it factor.
You know what's crazy too? Like, we were joking about it and like serious stuff and like finding out where the money. This scandal with Vince was honestly the best thing that's happened in WWE in a decade.
Yeah.
If you really think about it.
Yeah, because we went, and even if you listen to the timeline of our podcasts, you know, since we started doing, you know, the first episode, it's always been pretty much a bitching about WWE in roster updates, if you ask Mitch. So now it's like, holy shit, all this stuff is happening and we have to talk about it. It's just, it's quote unquote such good shit right now.
Agreed.
But back to said AEW thing before we go back to WWE. I don't know what the hell's going on here. CM Punk is he in? Is he out? Because there was rumors of him walking out.
Being difficult to work with.
They went to Cleveland, which is the CM Punk cursed city.
I mean, we can go into that before we go to Cleveland. When he called out Moxley before that pay-per-view, he went off. Well, he was free to say whatever he wanted. And then he just randomly called out Hangman. He called out Paige. Right. I'm like, what the? I'm like, where is this coming from? Like,
but he addressed something that the whole wrestling community has been asking since Paige lost the title.
True. Yes.
I mean, if you're going to give CM Punk a mic at a wrestling show, you have to give him free credibility to say what he wants. What he's going to say, you're going to have to take that with a grain of salt because it's going to be both for good and for bad.
Yeah.
You're not going to muzzle the guy. You're not going to be able to hand him. You can't hand him a script. And I don't want him to be handed a script. I want CM Punk to just be CM Punk for both good and bad.
Oh, 100% agree. I just found it weird because Paige wasn't even there in the building. He's like, oh, well, that's not cowboy shit. That's coward shit. And then he was talking about like the disrespect that Paige had. Because obviously Paige, I mean, it's interesting how life changes in the wrestling world because Paige was basically hitting him with the, hey, I was born and bred here. I give a shit about this place. Like, you don't care, basically, about this place. And obviously, Moxley said the same thing, too. Moxley said, you're just here for the money. He's like,
can you tell the difference between, is that a real shoot or is that just
a work shoot?
Is an easy promo. Because it's an easy target to go, yeah, well, you came from the other place. You came because you're running out of money. You were whatever. That's an easy. It's like getting cheap heat or, you know, saying whatever city you're in, say their name, and everyone's going to cheer and go, wee.
Right. I don't know. It just feels like, and obviously we know about how he basically got Colt Cabana exiled from AEW. I mean, that's legit. Since they're not buddies anymore, and since when Punk came back, Cabana hasn't been on.
Which is strange because not that long ago, there was that thing of they were talking about possibly letting his contract expire, and everyone in the back was like, absolutely not. Colt Cabana. Like, he's kind of, in a way, it's kind of like the R-Truth of AEW because you're going to keep him because he helps keep a locker room happy. Everyone likes this guy. Don't get rid of him. He brings me joy.
I agree. Like, I just feel like, and then it all just led with the AEW stuff with the Wednesday you're talking about in Cleveland. They said we're going to unify the titles here in Cleveland. Moxley versus Punk. I was freaking shocked because that is a lot of money you are leaving on the table to do it on a free show. First, Jacob, were you shocked that they announced like, hey, we're going to do this in Cleveland?
Yes, 100%, because you have a short amount of time to build up your main title match for your biggest pay-per-view. Like, I was extremely shocked by that, which then made me feel like, wait, are some of these rumors true? What's true and what's not? I don't know.
Right. And then you get to, the hype video that came out for it got me invested. I'm like, all right, I'm recording. I'm going to make sure we're done by this time so I could watch AEW, because I was like, oh, it's going to be like, I thought it was going to be the main event. The match was on at 9:00. And I know, and if you've listened to the podcast, you know Jacob is, especially for this type of match, a big stickler for the champion has to go last. This is a unification match with Punk and Moxley, and you're going on at 9:00.
Yeah, unless that match is going to run an hour long.
Which it did not, which this made me really think all the shit with Punk and whatever is true, because CM Punk lost in 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Like,
right?
Destroyed 1, 2, 3. I'm not gonna lie. Before I got mad, I was just shocked. I didn't know. I couldn't believe it just happened.
Right. I was working and it just popped up on my phone. I'm like, wait, what? What the hell just happened? But I found it, I found this, I found the whole match later, and I'm like, this is odd. Like, which means a couple things. Punk is legitimate, injured still, or there's heat. That's your only two options, because nothing else makes sense.
So now, which breaking news as we're recording, I don't know how much hurt he is, Jacob, because CM Punk came back tonight on 8/31/22, signed the contract to wrestle John Moxley this Sunday at All Out for the title. So how hurt are you if you just got smoked, but you're wrestling for the title this Sunday? That's where I'm like, there's something fishy.
Something extremely fishy about that, because I thought before we recorded this, I thought hearing from your end of the video was Punk saying, "Oh, my foot was broke again."
Yep, he did.
All right, so his foot's broke, but he's going to wrestle anyways. I mean, all right, so back to the 3-minute match. What's really else is shitty about this is it makes Hangman look weak, which I don't like. He carried your company.
I'm a big Page fan too.
He carried your company, and the guy who beat him loses in 3 minutes to a guy who's been beat by both guys.
Yep.
Like, that's something's up. Something's weird. Yeah, so I don't know. Is this going to be a squash match on Sunday?
How do you go from a squash match on Wednesday to some barn burner? And how do you can't sell the dude was hurt or they wouldn't have the rematch?
Right. So I really hope AEW pulls an ECW, because back in the day, if something happened, Paul Heyman would go out and talk about it. Prime example of that was Taz and Sabu were supposed to have a match at, I forget which pay-per-view it was, and Paulie, dangerously at the time, came out and said, "Hey, no, Sabu is wrestling in some other promotion because he doesn't give a shit about this." So, like, he was just straight up brutally honest about it. So, if it was me, I would just be like, whatever's going on, I take the pill, swallow it, and deal with your repercussions, because I feel like it's going to hurt your company more to have all these, like, is it going to hurt more to have people talking about speculations, or is it going to hurt more to be like, oh, so this is really happening? This is what's really going on. Either way, people are talking about your company. I just feel like if you come out and straight up talk about it, the wrestling community is going to talk about your company way more, for both good and bad, for what that is.
Jacob, like, this is one of your signature lines on our podcast, which is we get into a lot. They've booked themselves into a corner.
Yes, they have.
Punk got squashed on Wednesday. Obviously, if Moxley beats him, squashes him again, it's like, well, the mystique with Punk is done. But if Punk beats Moxley after getting squashed literally a week ago to being quote unquote injured, that just completely kills Moxley.
There is one way, shooting from the hip here. There's, in my mind, one way to get out of this.
MJF?
MJF.
I thought he was going to show up when they got squashed. I really thought he was coming.
That's what I thought too. And that's one of the, it's turned out to be way more many times as of late, but where I have been wrong, because I fully expected MJF to show the fuck up too. That obviously didn't happen. So your only way to book yourself out of this contest is, or out of this situation, is to have MJF go after Punk or go after Moxley. He has to go after one of them. He has to be put in that main event spot right away, and or take out the other one to take out the champion. Something has to happen. Or could you have MJF come out, with the rough knot looking, some hokey shit, and have him attack Moxley with a chair or a kendo stick or something, and no one sees it, but then Punk ends up winning, only to come back into said feud with Punk. But I feel like you'd have to take out Moxley first.
You could, and it's funny too, because this is always the wild card with Punk. It's in Chicago.
It is in Chicago, you're right.
That's always the wild card with Punk. It's in Chicago.
Which brings back up the great point. Why would you have this match in the first place? What the hell happened?
Yes. Yeah. The Wednesday match.
Every time you answer something, you just answer something with another question, and you're just screwing yourself over the whole time.
Yeah. And that's going to be your main event. Well, unless he gets squashed again, because there's no way. I just think there's no. I don't know what they're going to do. I really don't. Because if Punk just comes perfectly healed, then you weren't hurt to me. Like, you did not just get dramatically healed in a week and a half.
Maybe his backstage shit got miraculously healed in a week and a half.
That's a good point. That's a good point. But then you see other shit with the other champion, with Thunder Rosa, having beef with people. She had to relinquish her title. So now you have like...
He's allegedly hurt, but we have to question that one too.
Yeah, because apparently there's heat with her and some people, when her and Britt had some shit talking she said about Thunder releasing the title. So I don't know what the hell's going on. But now you have a fatal four-way with Storm, Baker, Hayter, and Sheeta. And that's going to be it all out too. I actually don't know where they're going to go with that.
I'm going to go. I mean,
is Jade
time? And Ember having a match?
Yeah, Jade and Ember Moon. I mean, Athena and Jade are having a match. Yes, for the TBS title. That title's terrible.
Which, if they're smart, they're going to have Athena take it off her, just so she can go after that main women's title. Because if there's anyone who's putting the work, I feel like it's Jade Cardrell.
She is.
She's certainly putting the work for what she's had. She's made the most of it. Because I didn't know her when it all first started, but now I know her. It's a household name here in the Mason Mansion.
But then who do you think is going to win that fatal four-way? Do you think they just give it back to old reliable Britt? Is it Tony's time or Jamie? Like, I don't think Sheeta's going to win, unfortunately. I just really don't. I think she's going to.
I don't think Sheeta should win.
Yeah, I think she's taking the pin.
I'd like to see Jamie Hayter. Because I like her. I would like to see Jamie Hayter win, but she has no reason to win.
So now Tony, I mean, why is Ruby she's doing other shows. I'm like, why is Ruby Soho not in this match?
See, we're back in that. Once again, we're going to talk about the AEW's women division is what the fuck is going on here, because they have the talent. They don't just have the homegrown, no-name talent anymore. You have names. But it's not like you're doing anything with these names. I mean, I would get it if they give it back to Britt Baker, because I don't know what else you do with the rest of the three women. Theoretically, Martin, if Tony Storm wins the match, what do you do with her?
Well, I'm going off of what you just said. So Athena beats Jade. This frees up Jade. Like, she's done her service as TBS. She becomes #1 contender for the AEW's Women's World Championship. Her beating Tony, I mean, Tony's obviously an accomplished wrestler. That's just like, but if Jade beat Britt to win the title after Britt's basically been AEW Charlotte, that's bigger.
It's way bigger. And it doesn't do a disservice to Tony.
No.
Because if Tony wins it and then loses it right away, then that does a disservice to her.
Yep.
If Britt wins it, she's not going to, because she is the Charlotte of AEW, she's not going to lose really that much, if any, momentum. It's Britt Baker. She's the constant. You can have her anytime, pick up the title and pick up where she left off last time, and she's going to be just fine.
Yeah.
That's the one great thing you have about Britt Baker. And unfortunately, it's just like Charlotte. I just happen to like Britt Baker more. I'm biased. I mean, the listeners know.
So they're champs right now. Like the championship matches for the men and women on this Sunday, it's going to be, I truly do not know what the hell they're about to do. I really don't.
I mean, just read out the rest of the card. Let's just bang them off one right after the other.
Tomohiro versus Eddie Kingston.
Dude, that's something else. Eddie Kingston, he was to that House of Glory show. He was fucking awesome.
He had real beef. Him and they've settled it now from looking at reports. Him and Sammy had a real altercation.
Yep. They had a real thing because a lot of us in the crowd were the guy who was facing. We're like, pretend he's Sammy. Or doing shit like that. So, but they squashed their beef and they're cool now. I believe that story. That sounds legit.
Yeah, that's real.
That'll just be a good hard-hitting match. I don't see it going over 12 minutes, but it'll be a good hard-hitting match because both those guys are Ishii's. For those who haven't seen Ishii, that dude, he's strong style. He's big boy strong style, and it's awesome.
Currently, right now, we have to be determined versus to be determined for the final for the inaugural AEW World Trios Championship. They're actually, I think, wrestling like right now for that. So we'll see how that goes. We got Wardlow, aka 2022 Goldberg, I guess, and FTR versus Jay Lethal and the Motor City Machine Guns. That's going to be a 6-man tag match. No titles on the line. I think that's an easy Wardlow and FTR.
Yep, easy.
We already talked about the women. We got Claudio versus Wheeler versus Penta, L0 versus Felix versus Rush versus Andrade versus Dante versus to be determined casino ladder match. Winner will receive a future AEW championship match. Anytime I see a TBD at the end, I always think that person's going to be the surprise entrant and win.
Yeah. I mean, the cool thing about this match is I think it's going to be a good shakeup because I could literally see any of those guys winning the title.
Yeah.
Literally any of them.
So I don't think Claudio's going to, I'm going to go with TBD. I don't even know who the hell that's going to be, but just because I don't know who would win.
I can see Roosh doing it. I bet I like Roosh. I like Roosh from his Ring of Honor days.
I'd give it to Andrade just for, hey man, you putting up with your father-in-law having 500 billion last matches. And then you got the match that's probably going to steal the night. Bryan Danielson versus Chris Jericho, just plain out singles match.
I think Daniel Bryan will win it. I mean, he just came back from injury, a month ago ish, somewhere in there.
Yeah, I think that's easy work. Swerve in Our Glory, Keith Lee, Swerve Strickland versus the Acclaimed for the AEW World Tag Team Championship. I think that's Keith and Swerve easy.
Yeah, but man, like the Acclaimed is on fire right now.
Yeah, our John Cena posted a picture on Instagram and they went crazy.
Oh, did they? Did he really?
Mm-hmm.
Shit, yeah, John Cena. Yeah, I as much as I love the Acclaimed and they're great, but I love both these teams. Swerve in Our Glory is fucking awesome. So I'm gonna go with them.
You got Jungle Boy versus Christian Cage. I think if this feud's ending today, I mean on Sunday, I think Jungle Boy's gonna take it.
Yes, and we can talk about the absolute fire promos both these guys have been firing off at each other.
Right.
It's been amazing. It
They-
feels like Attitude Era promos.
They've been a bright spot.
Hell yeah.
They've been a bright spot. You got Ricky Starks versus Powerhouse Hobbs singles match.
That one's tough. That's a tough pick.
I think. Let me make sure that's who I think I man, I kind of want to go Powerhouse.
You have a newborn baby face and an up and comer uber heel.
Yes.
So it's hard to pick on this one. I mean, it's a Vegas pick 'em in my book. Like either which way, I think it'll work out for both of them. I think it's a win. I think they've booked themselves perfectly on this one. It's a win-win for both.
We already talked about Jade and Athena. We're both going Athena. Well, I'm going Athena. Then you got Pac versus Kip for the All Atlantic Championship. I feel like you got to keep running with Pac.
Oh, have to run with Pac. 100%. You can't. If you lose it right away, dude, that makes him look weak. We can't have that shit.
And then you got this is 14. That's gonna be a long night. Then you got House of Black, Malachi, Brody King, Buddy Matthews versus Rusev's on this. Wow. Miedo, Darby Allin, and Sting.
House of Black, man. After seeing them on Sunday, I will never bet against House of Black. But I do love. I don't know if you ever watched the show Vikings, but this gives me straight up Viking vibes with Miro right now doing his whole "where's the pagan" shit. I fucking love it. It's so like I'm just like hell yeah, I'm all about this shit. It's so good.
And then you got the main event now, as of today, Punk versus Moxley for the title.
You got? You going Punk? You going Mox?
I really think they can. I think they can't go Punk. I feel like you have to pick Moxley. You can't have Moxley squash him in 3 minutes and then miraculously CM Punk comes in there like a Super Saiyan 3 and just beats the hell out of Moxley. No, you cannot do that. I don't care if it's in Chicago. Because if you do that, Moxley better just take his shit back and go be Dean Ambrose again. Like, you can't do it. Unless they're like, oh, now they get a rubber match. So now we get to have a final match at whatever the next big event is.
Nah, fuck that. I'm gonna go Moxley, but it's gonna be by some bullshit.
Does your savior come? Does MJF come?
I'm thinking MJF shows up. So MJF is somehow getting involved. That's my biggest prediction right there is MJF shows up.
Okay. We'll see. By the time you guys listen to this, the card may already be out. I mean, pay-per-view might be over, depending on editing and all that, but we'll be right back just talking about our picks and stuff. So yeah, they've really booked themselves in a corner. I don't want to spend too long about this, but Jacob, I really felt like one of the things that made me think all this AEW stuff was some of it, there's some real smoke there, is on a random Monday where it was Monday Night Raw 2 weeks ago and someone's music was playing and nobody knew who the hell it was. And then you see that face and the whole wrestling world goes, holy shit, it is Johnny Gargano. Like, I think when he came out, because obviously, and he's already come out saying if Triple H was running shit, he would not have been there. Like, he was leaning like once again, Vince wins no matter what. His scandal happens, and now his company is thriving. He's just sitting at home.
Collecting that sweet stock money.
Yeah. So how did you like when Johnny came out? Because your family is a big Gargano fans. Like, how did you feel seeing him?
Well, so I was working. Mm-hmm. Is also like another famous quote by me, I feel like, at this point on the podcast. But I was working and you guys blew up my phone right before I walked out of the gate, and I was like, "Holy shit, Johnny Gargano's back! This is amazing!" So I hurry my ass up on home. I sent the link to my wife. My wife didn't see it, and I'm like, "Oh, I bet she fell asleep on the couch or something." So I get home to find my wife asleep on the couch, and I go, "Hey, wake up!" She's like, "What? Why are you waking me up?" I'm like, Johnny Gargano's back in WWE, and she's like, "Holy shit, are you serious?" Yes, I messaged you. You didn't see it. It's like, that's amazing. You passed right back out. So she was super stoked about it the next day. She was super stoked about it when she was half asleep, but it's irrelevant. But yeah, we're pumped because, in my opinion, I'm just waiting for Triple H he's gonna keep it in his back pocket because he can fire it off at any given moment. Give me that sweet ass DIY reunion. Give me DIY back and let them run. Like, now you have the real possibility of who's going to take titles off the Usos? DIY.
I agree now. And there's another possibility that's becoming because this guy's not getting enough credit as much. Sami Zayn is working his ass off.
Sami Zayn always works his ass off. I just don't feel like he gets a recognition.
Agreed. So now you could potentially, seeing some with Kevin Owens, you could potentially have that reunion take out the Usos.
Oh, yeah. Well, it makes sense because they just had that little interaction the other night where they wanted, I believe it was past Monday.
Yep.
The Usos wanted Sami Zayn to take out Kevin Owens with a chair, and he's like, "Nah, I can't do it, man. It's my boy. It's my Kevin Owens."
So,
and yeah.
And with Gargano too, it's looking like it's going to be feuding with Theory. There are people who have talked about like Gargano taking the briefcase from him. What do you think about that?
That's really cool and all, and I like it. But Johnny Gargano doesn't need the briefcase. Johnny Gargano is Mr. Hard Work, DIY, do it yourself. And if there's something special about Johnny Gargano, I want to see him go. I want to see him disassemble the bloodline. You know, if that's going to end up being what happens, you know, I want to see Johnny Gargano win it himself and not do the cash in briefcase or cash in the briefcase. I think it would be more special.
Jacob, if we're going to be talking about this every podcast, if The Rock doesn't do the Royal Rumble this year, you have a Royal Rumble where you could have Gargano or Cody Rhodes win. If Dwayne doesn't do it, we have a long time to talk about that, but when we get closer, like, who do you have win that Rumble between Rhodes and Gargano? Because I feel like right now, those are the favorites. We've talked about a dark horse in Montez. Like, when Cody comes back, holy shit.
If The Rock is not there, is Cody and Gargano going to be on the same brand? Are they both going to be on Raw?
Oh, I mean, currently right now, because we don't know when Cody's coming back and what show he is, currently listed, they're both on Raw.
All right. If you're going to play that card, you have to put one of them on SmackDown, one of them on Raw. Keep Gargano on Raw because Ciampa's there. And that will constantly be a talk in WWE. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, Ciampa is with The Miz on Raw, right?
Yeah, he's killing it with The Miz, yep.
Okay. So, if you don't split them and keep them on the same brand, that's hard. I don't know who like today, as of right now, August 31st, I wouldn't know who to pick. Because I long-term storylines, what are we doing? You know, what's the plans for everyone? I'm sure with Gargano coming back, they got some sort of sweet storyline for him. But where does that throw Cody in with the storylines that he was already probably guaranteed to happen when he signed on? Anything is possible right now. So I don't know. Cody coming back and beating Roman would be more poetic, I feel like, or apropos, as Cody Rhodes likes to say, even though I really don't know what that word means, but it sounds like it'd be the right word. yeah, I think I'd have to go Cody, because you could have Johnny Gargano versus Cody at SummerSlam next year, and can't tell me that wouldn't be an absolute banger. But I figure by that time, I figure by next year, the titles are going back to respective brands. You're not going to have one single guy. You're going to have Raw champion, SmackDown champion, and that'll be that.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy how we say we have a couple, like we have months away, but as we're recording, August is going to be, this is the last day of August. And then we have September, October, November, December. It's just 4 months, and they will go by quick because this year's gone by fast. And we're going to be right back in, dude, who do we think is going to win the Rumble by mid-December? Like we're already
I'm still sticking with Rock. I won't change my opinion on that because I've been saying that for like 2 years now. So I'm invested.
Yeah, and I understand. It's just like if the Rock thing, because I mean, the Rock is, if it is the Rock, he's going to lose. So, and then it's like, okay, he beat the Rock. Now who finally beats Roman? And we're going to be in a whole cluster.
It's like it's either the Rock or the guy right after the Rock.
Yeah.
I think
it's the guy after. I don't think Rock would go over. I don't.
You know what? Possibly could happen. You could see Rock win to turn around and lose like the next night.
Or Theory cashes in on Rock.
Something along those lines. I could see some shit like that. Like Roman comes out all pissed off, just starts slamming the Rock with spear after spear after spear.
Mm-hmm.
Boom! Here comes Theory with the cash in. Like that'd work.
We've never talked about that angle. That,
or maybe Theory, maybe while Roman's beating the shit out of him, maybe Theory takes him out with a chair and then he's injured. Then you're gonna get like the Roman break for a while because Roman's going to take time off after this title run anyway. So you have to kayfabe injure him. You have to break up the bloodline. You have to do all this. Before you can disassemble this completely, like it can't just go away all at once. You have to break it off piece by piece.
That's a good point. Speaking of Raw, Triple H, if you want to say his effect or whatever, well, you could because he's giving his son Reign. What did you hear the Seth Rollins, Matt Riddle stuff?
The promos they were cutting on each other
on Monday night, and then where it was all like normal laughing Seth, but then once Riddle mentioned Becky, he completely changed. And when he's like, let's talk about your family. Oh, your kids and your wife divorced you and your kids left because they don't want to see your bitch ass. And when I heard that, I had to sit up in my chair because I'm like, holy shit. And that's already has millions of views in 24 hours.
I'll be completely real with you. The that promo was that was awesome. That was amazing, and it got people talking, and it's got millions of views, like you already said.
Has people invested in the match now? Like really invested.
I don't think that was a shoot. I think this was all pre-planned. Because if let's say this was real, hypothetically, let's say this was a real shoot. You have two very different people here. You have Seth Rollins, who's running Raw, who's carried Raw.
He has.
Who runs a show and makes a lot of the calls. But then you have Matt Riddle, who's an absolute wild card of a human being who could absolutely 100% smash pretty much anyone on that roster. Literally, there's only like 2 people on that roster who could go toe to toe with Matt Riddle, and that's the Shoosh Brigade, Otis and
Chad Gable.
Chad Gable. They're the only 2 guys that could actually legit in a shoot fight go toe to toe with Matt Riddle, because we have to remember Matt Riddle was UFC back in the day.
Like same, you think it's same size? Because I mean shoot wise, Bobby can fight.
Oh shit, yeah, we do have Bobby. Other than that, but like if you really wanted to go toe to toe with like Seth Rollins, Matt Riddle, I have no doubt Matt Riddle would absolutely demolish Seth Rollins in every possible way that could ever be done. So this is 100% a fixed shoot style promo. But damn, was it good. Shit was lit.
It's because those are the best promos. I think it was all planned as well. But you have that doubt. because it was legit. Seth Rollins at a point never wanted to work with Riddle, and it was real. Like when they were in tag matches, they tagged the other one out. Like if Seth's on one side, Riddle's on the other. Seth's coming in, Riddle's got to get out because he legit didn't want to work with Riddle. Obviously, the stuff with the ex-wife saying stuff about Becky, the women on the roster, that was legit. So like when you have that realism mixed with the work, that's what makes promos significantly better. Because then you're like, is it real? Is it not?
Yeah, no, it's great. This is what wrestling is supposed to be. In the modern era, this is as real as it's going to get, quote unquote. So I imagine, they had the whole conversation of like, oh hey bro, can I talk about Becky? Sure, bro. Like, by the way, if you want to, you can talk about my ex-wife and like her and like our kids. Like, it's fine. It's all good, bro. I can see that shit happening.
So,
but we saw the question like, wait, everyone's gonna have that little piece of doubt in their mind.
So we're gonna see. We're gonna see. So let's go to Clash at the Castle, closing off. Make this real quick as we're getting to the hour mark. This is taking place this Saturday, 1 p.m. It's gonna be a lit show in terms of like they've not had this type of event this size in the UK in a long time. We'll just start. You got Edge and Mysterio versus Dominic in the corner versus Judgment Day. I honestly think the Judgment Day is going to take it. Rhea Ripley has some spell on Dominic, so I think they're taking it.
Yeah. But is this the match though that Dominic turns on Ray?
I think it is.
That'd be good to see. I'd be happy to see that.
You got this match is going to be a sleeper. Gunther versus Sheamus. That is
hell yeah.
You got that for the title. That's going to be real good. I think Gunther wins.
Yeah,
but it's going to be wild. Riddle versus
it's going to be hard hitting.
Yeah,
I was going to say it's going to be very hard hitting, and yeah, Gunther's definitely taking it.
Riddle versus Seth. Seth has been carrying this place, and he's also had to take all the L's. Who wins this?
Going to be Seth. I think you have to continue to build this storyline. This isn't a one and done. This isn't a 2 and done. This isn't a 3 and done. This is a long-term storyline right here. And I feel like Seth has to get the W on this part of this chapter.
Bianca Belair, Alexa Bliss, and Asuka versus Bayley, Dakota Kai, and Io Sky. This is tough because it's only tough for me because Bianca does well. This is a 3-on-3, so she can lose as long as she's the one not pinned. But I feel like Bayley's team's gonna win. They're gonna pin like Asuka or Bliss.
You're 100% correct on that, no doubt.
And then from this, will emerge the number one contenders. Which, by the way, apparently there's been like Naomi and Sasha have been added back to the WWE like site roster. So if you're going from that, it's inevitable. I saw reports that Sasha could have came back, yes, on Monday, but there was no much time in the show. There was no time in the show. So she could be coming back on the castle, which, I mean, it's going to be crazy if her, Naomi, and rumored Tegan Knox, like all these people coming back at the castle, that would be crazy.
Yeah. I can see that. I mean,
go ahead, Jacob.
I really don't. I don't care that much. I'm not that vested into this one.
Yeah, I don't think like I will be. I think my biggest thing, especially with Sasha and Naomi, because now your women's division is looking. You got Bayley, Dakota, Io back. You got obviously that, and then you get Sasha, Naomi. And I mean, I've been the one who's saying it. Like, if Sasha wasn't coming back, I don't think Bayley would have come back. I really believe that. So obviously Bayley's back, and Sasha's return is inevitable, but allegedly. So we'll see. I mean, she always does the job, and I'm just gonna sit there look at AEW like, man, you guys were quick to sign like Miedo, aka Rusev. Sasha and Naomi were home and you weren't trying to like really poach them? What were you doing?
Oh, I 100% bet they were trying to poach him, but at the same time, they're going to end up with one of those deals where you have to wait out your contract.
I mean,
And I know we heard the rumors of allegedly when their contracts were ending, but nothing was concrete for sure.
Yep, because apparently, like they're supposed to end this year. But again, you're right on all the things you said. And the other thing, Triple H.
Yep, Triple H factor is a real fucking thing now.
I mean, he's been mending fences for this company for years, swallowing it. Ever since he became like head of NXT, that man is, he's changed. He swallows his pride when it's truly, can't believe I'm saying this, best for business. He makes those moves.
Yeah. And I mean, there's still a bunch of random NXT people that have been let go over the past year and a half, 2 years now, where, man, you don't know what the possibility is of anyone coming back at any given time.
Like
because
Dexter
anything
Lumis.
is possible. Dexter Lumis. I'm still kind of waiting to see, like, are they going to do anything with Authors of Pain? Would he bring them back?
Hit Rose back.
Hit Row is back.
There's talks about Braun now, like being a real possibility. Now, but before we have two more matches, the championship matches, is Triple H the guy who's going to get Bray to come back to wrestling?
I think there's a great possibility of it. And like I've said before, I've said so many times, like, I don't want to see Bray go back to WWE because I want to see Bray get screwed again.
Mm-hmm.
But with Triple H at the helm, like, are you just gonna let this, like, let him just flap his wings? Let this little bird fly. This guy knows what he's doing. Triple H, let him do his thing.
It's crazy.
And he'd be the guy to do it too.
It was just this time a couple of years ago, if not maybe a year ago, we were talking about when Bray Wyatt got released. Oh, AEW's having a show on Halloween. That's when he's coming back, and we haven't seen him.
I'm still shocked by that. I figured for sure Bray Wyatt's going to AEW, especially for all the stuff that they still talk about Brody Lee.
Mm-hmm.
They still take care of his family, still fly his kid down and stuff. Like, I was kind of shocked. I figured Bray would be the guy to show up to AEW. But now it's like, shit, man, go to WWE and do your thing.
You got Liv Morgan versus Shayna Baszler. Triple H is obviously trying to turn Shayna back to the old Shayna. Liv, who we all love. WWE got heat, especially because we talked about it during SummerSlam. Like, they made Liv look fucking terrible.
Yeah, and the crowd is not behind her.
The way they made her look in that Ronda match, they turned.
Yep, they screwed the pooch on this one, and literally this is just a time holder match. This is literally just to progress to the next part of the Liv story because it's all it is. You have to try and make Liv look as good as possible. For the love of God, you have to do it.
Yeah. And
because her and Ronda are going to have a match next after this, so you have to make Liv look good.
And the true inevitable is coming. I mean, she was on Stone Cold's thing, Charlotte Flair. She's coming. We don't know when, but we know she is coming. So, and then the main event, man, just passed 2 years, which, funny enough, he won that triple threat against people we talked about, Braun and Bray, who are no longer with the company. 2 years as Universal Champ. Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre for the championship. Jacob, I think you said a very great line when we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Right man, wrong time.
That's it. That is it. And I love thank you, by the way, for all the complimenting and stuff today. It's been very, very good for my ego.
Just credit where credit's due.
Appreciate it, buddy. You're a hell of a guy. But yeah, that's it. Right guy, wrong time. Drew McIntyre should not win this title. He has no reason to win this title. You can try and make this storyline like, oh, it's in the UK and oh, look at how powerful Drew is. But at the same time, it's like, man, Prepare to lose by some shisty shit, I imagine. Because I imagine they're not going to have him lose clean. It's going to be because of some bullshit. What the bullshit is, I don't know. But that's the way you have to do it, I imagine. I can't imagine him losing clean.
The only way, like, if this was only for one of the titles, like the Raw one and Drew went to Raw, I could have seen it.
Yep.
But it's for the both of them, which there's just no way. The only way I think Drew wins is if Rock called them this week and said, "Hey, I'm not doing WrestleMania. Figure something else out." And Roman's like, "If Rock's not doing it, then I want some time off before like the Rumble." That's the only thing I could see.
No, I don't even see that. I can't imagine that. I think if The Rock would call him back out, which we allegedly don't even technically know if he's in or not.
Yo.
We can speculate here, but if The Rock is out, I feel like you're holding that for Cody Rhodes. That's it. That's the only thing that could possibly make sense to me, because what's a bigger draw at WrestleMania? Drew McIntyre versus Cody Rhodes, Cody Rhodes versus
Roman Reigns.
After
almost being champ for 3 years.
What makes more sense? The comeback kid, the forgotten son versus your daddy's favorite, or fucking Drew McIntyre. And I hate sounding like I'm a Drew hater, and I'm not. I like Drew. I love the character and everything. It's just, sorry, kid, it's just not the right time.
Yeah, and he had a fire promo on Kevin Owens a couple of Mondays ago. He's like, "Don't talk about this dude. I was the chosen one. Then I got my ass fired. And I had to work my way." I was like, "Oh, go ahead, Drew." I mean, I love Drew McIntyre. He obviously carried this whole freaking company during the whole COVID pandemic, the Thunderdome era. And obviously, our biggest thing with being a Drew fan is that he never got to win the title in front of a live crowd. He did get to win that Royal Rumble in front of a live crowd and eliminate Brock Lesnar, and that was hyped. But he never got to win that big title in front of a live crowd. But I hope he does win eventually. I can't pick against Roman until I see someone beat Roman.
Here's the deal. Here's the biggest question of this match. It's not the outcome. It's not, how they're going to do this. The real question is, are they going to bring back Drew McIntyre's Broken Dreams intro song for this pay-per-view?
I think they will, because if you hear that, you'll be like, "Oh, they're giving Drew his thing," then he might do it. So you have to put that belief.
Oh, man, that would put me in such belief. Be like, "Oh, shit.
Exactly.
Broken Dreams? Hell yeah, let's go." That's a great theme song.
They'll do it just to give like the fans the belief. I mean, Roman is going to win. I don't think Roman ain't about to just beat his ass. I think obviously the whole bloodline's going to get involved. Drew's going to be like, if the bloodline didn't get involved, he would have hit the Claymore to win, and then it's game over.
What if Drew's setting it up to hit him with the Claymore, hit Roman with the Claymore to finish it off, and Sammy jumps in and takes a Claymore for Roman?
Dude, I think that could happen. I really do.
Just for Roman to look up and be like, "Wait, what the hell? Yeah. That's my Oos. That's my Sami Zayn." Then just spear him 1, 2, 3, call it a day. That'd be cool.
I think it's gonna happen. I actually like that. I think that's gonna happen. But we're up against it. We're over an hour. By the time you listen to this podcast, you'll be already getting ready to listen to our review on these pay-per-views. This is a big wrestling weekend. Obviously, you got Clash of the Castle, you got All Out, you got Worlds Collide, where they're combining the NXT UK and NXT titles, which is very interesting. I don't know if you saw NXT, but
the board, they're doing all of them.
They're doing the men's and women's.
I don't like that.
That's what they're doing, and this is how you could tell Triple H has his hands on these things, because he made it a big deal on NXT yesterday. He had the NXT Black and Gold champs from each UK and the American one talking to the current champ like, "Hey, know the history of this this brand. You need to get this shit done." Like, you had Finn Balor come up to Braun Breaker. You had Tommaso Ciampa come up to Braun Breaker. Like, you had the champs coming. You had Rhea confronting Mandy. You had oh man, you had Rhea confronting someone. Like you had all the old black and gold champs and the UK champ Gunter coming to Tyler Bates saying, "I held that title. This is you combine these titles for like our brand," and all. Like that's how you know Triple H is in charge, because Vince wouldn't do that, and that's good shit.
Oh yeah. Also, Ricochet's back on NXT.
Ricochet's going to be going for that match. Is going to be actually fire. That's going to be wild. He came. He's like, "I'm going to challenge for the North." I was like, okay. And then you had
Which goes back to shit we've said. Bring those guys back to NXT and let them do their thing.
You have Nikki Cross and Doudrop competing for the NXT Women Tag Titles on that Sunday. Like we just said, man. Like we said. But by the time you listen to this, those will be over probably. So yeah, we'll definitely be here for the review. But thank you everyone for listening to the L7C podcast. You always, in the past 2 years, after SummerSlam, we do take a little break. We're back again. You're literally going to hear, we're going to be reviewing maybe next week or so when we figure out a date. And then we'll go from there. Thank you, Jacob, for being our wrestling expert. This was a great time. And watch all the wrestling this Labor Day weekend. Have a safe Labor Day weekend. And you guys take care. This is the L7C podcast, signing out. Thank you for listening to this episode of the L7C podcast. Be sure to like, rate, review, and subscribe to the channel. Follow us on all social media platforms, and we'll be talking to you guys soon. Take care.